mean, obviously everybody knows we're in the minority, but we have to make this decision. Do we want to act like we're in the minority or do we want to act like the opposition? And the fact of the matter is, of course, our institutional levers that we can pull to stop these things are limited. But the things we can do, we should do them. Even if ultimately it doesn't stop something, should work to delay, to obstruct, to try to stop the things that are going to negatively impact our constituents. We can show up to these federal buildings and make sure that people across the country know exactly what's going on and the fact that a lot of the federal elected officials have been shut out from the process. And it's not even just Democrats, it's Republicans too in Congress that have no idea what's going on. They're just not saying anything because they bow to Elon Musk, they bow to Donald Trump. So it's litigation, working with the outside groups. It's protest and mobilization, making sure that we're protesting, doing direct action. We need people to be on the phones calling Republican members of Congress to tell them to grow a spine and do something. There's a bill that Hakeem Jeffries is introducing that would help stop a lot of what Elon Musk is doing. If every Democrat gets behind it, it means we only need three Republicans to get behind it too. So calling those Republicans in those frontline districts are going to be really important. And then us on the inside, we need to work at using the parliamentary procedure and the different procedures that we can in committee to stop, delay, and obstruct the worst parts here of Donald Trump's agenda. And we saw an example of this the other day in the Oversight Committee. Our ranking member, Jerry Connolly, called for a vote to subpoena Musk, caught the Republicans off guard. We almost won that vote, even though we're outnumbered on the committee. So we got to keep doing things like that and hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah. So Maxwell, I'm accused often of being too optimistic and being too kind of sunny about things. But even I am kind of frustrated with the fact that this boils down to just a numbers game sometimes at the end of the day. We're trying to get a certain number of Republicans not to sign on to a lot of this. So it sounds to me that you're saying that some of the traditional ways that people's voices have been heard over time, protesting, getting out, calling your congressmen, calling your senators, that's the route that people should be taking? Because it sounds to me also we may be delaying things from happening, but it sounds like they're happening nonetheless.
Protest is really important. It's one of multiple things people should do. Obviously, we want to make sure we take it back to the House in 2 years, but we can't wait 2 years and just not do anything. And so, of course, we need people involved in the elections, making sure that we beat these Republicans, we take these gavels. In the interim, protest, direct action is something they can do. Calling these members is something they can do. And look, we've had some wins because the public spoke out. Look at the OPM memo. If no one spoke out, if no one raised hell on the fact that the entire federal government had a big freeze, they wouldn't have rescinded that OPM memo, right? Look at the tariffs. Donald Trump went back on the tariffs for Canada and Mexico, and he didn't get anything from those countries. They literally told him, I'm going to do something I was already going to do. And he backtracked. Why? Because the public sentiment was, this is going to raise prices. And it was going to raise prices. And so he took a step back. If we go back to the first Trump administration, after the shooting that happened in Las Vegas, guess what? People rose up, they protested, and Donald Trump implemented a bump stock ban on guns. That was a big deal when it happened. So we have to realize that even though everything is crazy, this is part of the plan. Steve Bannon's famous quote is flood the zone. And when they flood the zone, their hope is that we'll do what a lot of people are doing right now, which is say it's chaos, there's nothing we can do. We might as well just let them run the whole damn country for 4 years. We can't allow that. Then history has shown with this president too, that if we speak up, sometimes we'll be successful, sometimes we won't be. And we'll delay and we'll fight and we'll obstruct those things, but we can't do nothing.
No, and I'm not advocating for people to sit down. In fact, I'm telling them to do the exact opposite. But when I see something like I just saw, which millions of people saw, which is you're a congressman. You are a congressman, and you and others like Jasmine Crockett, et cetera, you can't even enter a federal building. So it's hard for, I think, a lot of Americans to watch this happen, Maxwell, and just sit back and say to themselves, how am I going to be effective? How many times can I call, people in DC? Like, how do people not lose hope, especially when I feel like the Democrats struggle a little bit right now, let's be honest, with having a cohesive message, I think, for Americans?
Yeah, I completely understand that, and that's why I said it's not just calling, it's protesting, right? It's also working locally to make sure you're doing what you can do to protect immigrants. I just got back from a meeting with most of the Haitian pastors in my community talking about ICE, talking about deportations, right? And so it's important that people, number one, look locally and focus on how you're going to help protect the most vulnerable people in your community, homeless services organization, etc. Number two, of course, thinking nationally, making the calls is important, but it's not the only tool you have. You can protest, you can ensure that you're educating people. Don't assume that all the people in your life understand what's going on right now, because honestly, a lot of people don't understand what's going on. Not everyone consumes news as a hobby. And so it's up to all of us to educate the people in our lives, whether it's at work, school, or church, as to what's going on and how this billionaire takeover is going on as well. So there are tools that we can take. I'm not going to sit here and lie to people and say, well, we're going to be able to stop everything.
Hmm.
These actions have consequences, and we're in this point right now where this president has given this unfettered access to an unelected billionaire. And so, well, of course, we can't just take a step back and say there's nothing we can do. So, in protests, cooling, members of Congress doing what we can on the inside, the litigation